right, here we go. Hold your ears, folks. It's showtime.
All right, guys. Showtime.
Hey, guys. Showtime.
All right, showtime.
All right, showtime.
Hey, showtime.
Showtime, kid.
Let's bring it in. It's showtime, right?
It's showtime. Let's kick some ass.
Ed Berliner, the fastest show in sports.
Greetings, true believers. Welcome into the fastest show in sports. I am Ed Berliner. I am your host. He is Mike Wise. He is Kevin Winter. By the way, just so the people on the audio podcast can figure it all out, say hi, Mike.
Hello, Ed. Hello, Kevin.
And Kevin, go ahead and say hi, Kevin.
Hi, Kevin.
There you go. Hi, Kevin. Yeah.
I follow the instructions well. I do it.
Come on, man. That's what we all do in television and radio. Just do instructions well. Help us and join us today as we answer the magical, musical, mystical question: how long will it be before the New York Knicks put up their banner celebrating their second-round playoff win over the Boston Celtics and hang it from the rafters in Madison Square Garden?
Mike, I told Ed this. Do you remember opening night a couple of years ago when the Knicks fans, I think they beat Boston and they all coming out, they're all celebrating. One kid goes, bing bong, into the SNY or MSG microphone. He said, and bing bong went friggin' viral, right? Bing bong went viral. So after the Knicks beat the Celtics, I'm thinking, fuck, this sucks. But they're down 0-2 to the Pacers, and I'm going, oh, please, God, dear heavenly sweet Lord and Jesus, who I never talked to in 25 years after my dad died, I beg for this one. Can you please knock it? I am waiting to put bing bong on Twitter. God bless America. It happened.
You have been onto this bing bong thing now. It's all over your social media. I don't think six people know what you're talking about. I don't.
Oh, no.
Yeah, sadly, I'm stuck in dad world, and Bing Bong is Joy's imaginary friend in Inside Out. Inside Out. Have you seen this? And she's like, Bing Bong,
so wait a
it's
minute.
an imaginary friend. And eventually, Bing Bong bites the dust in some, in some weird thing.
Weird. The Knicks bit the dust too. The Knicks bit the dust, so you're okay.
Okay, so wait a minute. Bing Bong comes from the movie Inside Out.
Well, that's where I don't know if that's where the guy, the Knicks asshat, got it from, but the Bing Bong is from Inside Out.
Okay, I have not seen Inside Out. I have not seen Inside Out 2, so that pretty much takes care of the whole thing there.
You should. Wow, those are both great. Even if you don't have a kid, you don't even have to have a child.
No, I love those kind of movies. I love them, but I just never had a chance to see them. I will always be the one who makes sure that I'm sitting there in the theater when the new Marvel comes out, the new DC comes out. I am still a comic book geek, so I have to go to those films right away.
Okay.
The others wind up on home view when it comes around. Between the 17 other series that I'm out here. And by the way, while I just mentioned movies, let's get this out of the way. Another goddamn Karate Kid movie. Can we please stop the madness? Another Karate Kid movie.
But I gotta say, I was against it, and then the Karate Kid show came on Netflix. And I'm telling you, man, Ralph Macchio and Tommy have got a second life. I don't even know the actor's name. I think, and I think that it's not a bad series.
Oh, come on!
I haven't seen that. I'll go see the movie just because it's Ralph Macchio, and then they put Jackie Chan in because Pat Morita's dead.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, come on.
Well,
I watched the Netflix series.
That
series was good for maybe 4 seasons. It maybe had 3 or 4 seasons where that was good. But then after that, the whole thing kind of became just another drag.
Wax on and wax off. And wax on and wax off. Come on.
I get it.
But doesn't this bring up a bigger question, guys? When was the last time an original movie was made? And I mean a lot of them. Everything is now. It's a spin-off or a repeat or a redo of a classic. Hell, in fact, you want to know some of the movies? In fact, Disney's now doing this. They've gone so far with some of their movies, they have to go back to the pre-beginning. So what? They've got Mufasa coming out for the Lion King. They did Lion King 1 and 2. You can't do any more Lion Kings. You're now into a different generation. so they go to Mufasa.
Well, yeah, it's called a reboot.
Okay,
but there's part of me that wants to do our origin story, and have like little kids talking about our lives as children on this show.
What do you want to
have?
I got the actor to play me. Who's the guy from Modern Family?
I just want hair again.
We can arrange that.
Okay.
But I mean, all of a sudden, what are we going to be like the football players in the Haribo commercials who sit there and talk like kids about eating little candies? Right. And by the way,
but I will say, to Kevin's point, I will say there are bad reboots, and there are decent like some of these whatever spin-offs, origin stories. I mean, maybe it's because I'm a Star Wars geek. That Andor series, oh my God, that thing was so well written. That thing was so well written. I'm like, if that was the actual real Star Wars first movie and they just put it together, that thing would be nominated for an Academy Award.
Well, but then you take Andor and then you go to Rogue One and then you go into the series now, and all of a sudden it all makes perfect sense. That's a brilliant job of writing and special effects that they did in Andor to put all that together. I mean, and by the way, before we get off on that tangent, those Haribo candies that I mentioned a couple minutes ago, they've been recalled.
Yeah, the old gummy bears.
Yeah, they found cannabis in the gummy bears in, I think, somewhere in Europe.
Hang on. Don't recall them. No, don't recall them. Leave them. Leave them. Shit,
all right.
Every kid needs to chill out these days. God, parents around the country are saying, please don't recall them.
So I guess we may as well go ahead and start in basketball, seeing as we've taken a shot at the New York Knicks here. So we may as well just continue this.
Mandatory.
We are finally to the NBA Finals, and I got to tell you, I said this a couple of weeks ago. I'm wrong. I feel like I'm Fonzie in the original Happy Days. I can't quite get it out. I'm actually looking forward to this series between Indiana and Oklahoma City. But I'm honest with you, again, outside of Halliburton and a few others, I'm not that up on a lot of the players. I could not tell you who the stars are, but I think it's going to be a really good series. I'm looking forward to it. And every one of these clown shits who are out there screaming that the ratings are going to suck and the NBA's worried, shut up. You have no idea what you're talking about. The NBA doesn't care because with platforms now and social media platforms and everything's being seen on phones and being seen on computers and being seen everywhere else, ratings are not a big deal anymore. So I think it's going to do just fine. But I'm actually looking forward to it.
The people who are saying, Mike, the people who are saying that this series is going to suck or it's not going to be a ratings win, those are old timers or only big market people. B, young kids who only want to see LeBron or Steph. Or some of those guys. This series is actually going to be some of the best basketball. And if you actually really want to dive deeper, this is going to be one hell of a chess match. Can Oklahoma City's defense match up, or how does Oklahoma City's defense match up and stop Indiana's offense, or vice versa? How can Indiana attack that Oklahoma City defense? That's my opinion. This is going to be a hell of a series. If I were still doing ESPN radio and hosting this, I'd be loving this series.
Yeah, I think Kevin should do this professionally again. This is he's spot on. He's spot on that. Look, anytime you put New York or LA or Boston, or if Chicago had a big name player, or in the NBA Finals, you've got a bump and all these things. But you're right. If a network partnership deal has been signed, and one has with NBC, it doesn't matter. They're not trying to grow their brand after they just signed a TV deal. They'd like to, and I don't know if those numbers matter as much, but I think, look, if this postseason has shown anything, it's really the changing of the guard. The torch has been passed. All these new stars, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, Jalen Williams for Oklahoma City, just an incredible player. I think if you put him on like one of 5 teams, they would be in the finals. Halliburton is, Siakam people know from Toronto, but Halliburton, he's going to be on an NBA Finals stage for the first time. That's a big deal. I mean, the casual viewer is going to tune in. and they're going to see a player that's got hang time like Dr. J at one point, and a guy who can shoot and is a fun guy. Like, for instance, I used to cover the Knicks Pacers series, and Reggie Miller he would talk to you and he was professional, but he would admit, like anybody else, he was a stone cold killer and a bit of a dick to everybody. Halliburton's killing everybody, and he's just a nice guy. He's fun, and he just seems likable. And so that's one thing. And I think if I really look at it, I just think, yeah, you're right. Steph was out early. LeBron and Luke is not only 25, but is out early. Giannis, Ben Simmons never made it to the post. I mean, sorry, God, Joel Embiid didn't even make it to the postseason this year. Kevin Durant didn't make it to the postseason. So you have all these guys, the Anthony Edwards. You have SGA, you have Halliburton. I mean Brunson, for that matter. All these guys under 30, they're just starting to hit their primes. That's what the NBA needs right now, a shot of fuel-injected fun that isn't the old guys, because these guys, they're not going to be around forever.
Okay, now there's two things that you opened up there, and we'll take them one at a time. But I have two issues with all this. First of all, it seems the NBA has finally come into a new era where we no longer have the knucklehead, where we had the player who was the arrogant asshole, who was creating problems on the court, off the court, and the kind of people who would help to destroy the brand that the NBA was creating. We seem to have turned the corner with better, smarter, younger players who get it now. The second part of it is, and we'll get to this too, is knowing, as what you both said, that Indiana and Oklahoma City make the best finals. How do you make that average fan, just the casual fan, the person who is not engrossed in the NBA, how do you make them care about this series? Because let's get to it, because you have to have a player you care about, a city you care about, something that you really want to get involved in, a storyline. And I don't see a lot of continuing storylines that come out of Indiana and Oklahoma City that will grab somebody and make them say, I got to see this. This is must-watch television.
So, let me jump in, Mike, and you can try to back me up or take a different direction. You're looking at, I don't think you can take a fan if they're just going to stumble upon the game. If that's all they're going to do, you need a hope. Your hope is that the game is so compelling and so entertaining.
That's a hook. That's the hook you need.
Hang on. But that's not a hook you control, right? That's not a hook you control as an advertiser, as a marketer. You're reliant on the players to do it. But that's the biggest hook. You need game one. Your best avenue for this series is all 5 games are decided within 5 points. Doesn't matter if it's a 4-1 series win, right? If it goes longer, great. But you need every game tight. The one thing you cannot have are the blowouts. Because, Mike, I've watched for so many times now in these series, teams, and especially game 7s, the Clippers let go of the friggin' rope against the Denver Nuggets. Game 7 is the be-all and end-all to watch sports, isn't it, guys?
But But can't you say that about every single series? You can't have a blowout. If you have a blowout, people are leaving. People are going somewhere else because they have 197 channels to look at right now. Yep. So even if you're into it, a blowout, you're out of there. So we got to shove that aside right here. You still have that hook. What is that hook? Right now,
I think
the series or whatever that will get people to watch.
Well, but storylines, like what was storylines? What are you going to do?
What are they?
I mean, it's certainly not the culinary cuisine of both towns. I mean, Steak and Shake and frickin' Spaghetti Factory. Get the fuck out. Excuse my French.
Like, to all of our friends who are going to sponsor us who are in Oklahoma and in Indiana, thank you so much. Please don't pay any attention to Mike. We still want your advertising dollars, and we'll still eat at your restaurant. Except if you're Steak and Shake, I won't.
I mean, these hayseed moonshine sipping, no, I'm kidding. I mean because the bottom line is, having spent a lot of time in Indiana during the playoffs in years past, I actually like the town. It's like I mean, not only do you have like St. Elmo's, which is famous for its extra spicy cocktail shrimp, but there's some nice restaurants. I haven't spent enough time in OKC. No, that's not true. I've spent enough time in OKC, but I gotta think. I gotta think that there's gonna be some there's gonna be some decent fanfare. Here's the thing.
Pick
To Kevin's
one. Wait a
point,
minute, Mike. Just
yeah,
pick one.
Greg Papa. Well, let's take out the narratives. Like, you've got two teams, one of which is going to win a first ever NBA title. That's huge for a local fan base. Those are two of the loudest arenas on the planet right now for good reason. Oklahoma City is beyond loud. The last time I was there, and it's just you can't. That translates onto television sometimes. And Secondly, you're going to see a couple stars that you haven't seen before. You're going to see a little bit of a freak show in Chet Holmgren, a 7-footer who probably weighs 150 pounds soaking wet, and yet is like Ralph Sampson. He can spin, he can twirl. He's just got he's like the Fantastic Four elongated arms guy. And so I guess what I'm getting at is you're going to see
That's,
some
by the way,
players
Mr.
that haven't been on the
Fantastic
national
Reed
stage.
Richards, in case you're wondering. That's Mr. Fantastic Reed Richards. Okay, it's
Yeah.
not the stretchy guy.
That was a very good comic book. But okay, so I guess what I'm getting at is, to Kevin's point, like Greg Papa, one of the announcers in the Bay Area a long time ago. I remember watching this when I was still trying to get a job at a good paper. I'm watching him, and I guess it was Tim Hardaway, Chris Mullen, and Mitch Richmond, and they were just Run TMC. They called them, it was this game that was just like so anti 90s or 80 whatever, and it was just like so much fun. Basketball was up and down. And at some point, Greg Papa goes, "If you don't like this game, you don't like basketball. No, you don't like sports." And I think there's something to that. Like if you are watching a compelling event and you know sports at all, I think that brings in the viewers. You're right. I think the spread is like 10 or 11 points for the first game. If Oklahoma's in control all the way, that is a ratings killer off the bat. But if Indiana surprises them, which I think they will in game one, I don't know if they win, but I think it's a good game because Minnesota laid down in the last game. Minnesota should have given them a much better series. The Pacers, except for the last third quarter of Game 6, I mean that was this whole postseason, Ed, has been compelling hoops. I hate to say it, but the 20-point
it's okay that you can say it. I only have one.
It's been amazing. Like the NBA postseason has been amazing this year.
There's one question that needs to be answered here. Kevin, did you just belch live on the air?
No, I did not. I promise you, I did not.
Are you sure?
I'm positive I did
because
not.
I could swear that I heard a belch.
I will.
Okay.
No, I would have told you I belched.
No, okay.
I actually would have went, oh crap.
Okay,
I would have covered it.
I'm just making sure, seeing as this is live broadcast. That's all.
That's right. Hey, back to you
back to reality.
For a hook, right? Back to reality. Back to the topic at hand. You asked for a hook.
Okay.
I think a great hook. You can sell the fact can SGA, who is now arguably the face of the league. He's this year's MVP. Can Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the point guard for Oklahoma City, for those of you who don't know, number 2 in blue or white that you're going to see starting on Thursday night, can he get his first championship? Can he become that next superstar? The counter for Indiana, this is where it gets a little dicey. Their superstar, and I threw up air quotes there, their next guy, their lead dog is Tyrese Halliburton. The question is Tyrese Halliburton an actual bona fide superstar in the league? Because remember, he was riding pine in the Olympics with Jason Tatum. So out of 12 guys who went to the Olympics last year, Halliburton was 12th. I don't think that poor kid ever saw the court in any of the games in Paris. And he still got his gold. So people don't necessarily view Hallie as an actual superstar. He's just a star on a good team that is now in the NBA Finals. So the question is Is that a hook that will catch people?
I forgot that. I mean, that's a pretty good hook, actually. You got a storyline.
I forgot that. I forgot that Tyrese Halliburton was on the Olympic team. That's actually he was like he was Christian.
There you go.
He was basically Christian. He was Christian Laettner on that team. You know, like what are you doing? That's a very good point. I don't know. Like if we're such a now society now that. The last few weeks, I mean, unless you haven't watched the NBA playoffs, oh my God, like Halliburton has been unbelievable. I think he has ascended that star platform. But you're right, you got to do it in the finals to make people last and believe it. And I think that's a valid argument. I also think go ahead.
No,
I was going to say. Okay, go ahead. You were going to say another
How about this,
narrative.
Guys?
Go ahead.
How about this? Ready? Team basketball. Both of these teams play team basketball. Yeah, they're reliant on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander to score 40, and he did. But when Oklahoma City's humming, they have like 3 or 4 guys who are averaging over 20. Team basketball. Celtics last year won the chip playing team basketball. And that's a dangerous hook, because that doesn't get sold as much in this day and age as the individual star. But this is a team basketball finals for both of these, for both the Pacers, especially the Pacers, but even Oklahoma City.
See, there's 2 things here that, and again, we're going off on tangents, but let's go ahead and stay here right now. I do believe that Indiana versus Oklahoma City is absolutely the best thing that could happen to the NBA. Period. End of story. We've discussed this. We've kind of glossed over this in the last few weeks, but there is no LeBron James. There is no Steph Curry. There is no nonsense coming in here. There's none of the old guard that's sitting here. It's a great thing for the NBA. That's why everybody who screams that the ratings are going to be a problem because the stars aren't there, we've just talked about it. The stars are there, but they're new stars.
Yeah, but that's why it's good for the NBA.
They're opening up a new era.
Yeah, but let's be clear. The best thing for the NBA is if Tyrese Halliburton were a Laker, and SGA were a Celtic or a Knick.
That's falling back on the same old dogma.
Let's be honest. The big markets, from Kingdom Come. The NBA has been ruled by about 6 teams. It's never hurt the ratings that the fact that the monster teams. But you're right. We need new stars. And okay, here's to your point, and I will back you up on this. The Sacramento Kings were an outpost. I mean, an NBA outpost for years. You didn't want to go there as a player. You didn't want to play there as a player. You didn't, as a fan, you were like disenchanted. When Chris Webber, Jason Williams, and then after Jason, Mike Bibby, and Peja Stojakovic and Vlade Divac started moving the ball around, and you had all these fun players that like were pieces that fit to the part, and that whole cliche of sublime choreography of teamwork that is basketball. That happened. Oh my God, Sacramento Kings became the most popular team in the NBA. I think Shaq and Kobe and the Lakers were the only thing that sold more jerseys than them for a while.
Well, see, but that comes down, and you mentioned big cities. You will always sell tickets for the Knicks, for the Lakers, for the Bulls, for the Miami Heat, for Dallas. You don't have to worry about these markets. Even you could, if Miami or LA doesn't hit the playoffs for 5 straight seasons, they will still sell out. If not, they'll come real close. So will the New York Knicks, because it's that kind of an event. So you have these smaller teams, which are smaller cities, Indiana and Oklahoma City. Hell yeah. Build them up. Make them something big. That's why it's the best thing in the world not to have these big teams there. The NBA has reached a point, guys, where they don't need LeBron James. They don't need the Knicks to win the championship anymore, because now you've got all these great stories, and I think Kevin hit him on the nose with all the different stories that are now here. That becomes appointment viewing. Even if you're not a basketball fan, you want to see what happens.
Are you saying, Ed, that Kevin Durant and LeBron James need the NBA more than it needs them?
Yes.
Ed, that's a clip right there. Post that clip.
It is a clip. Hang on. And Mike, you brought it up as well. You mentioned something earlier about what's best for the NBA, right? What's best for the NBA now is to get it's to probably have 3 or 4 finals from here going forward where you have new blood in the finals.
Bingo.
Where you've got new stars. So, for instance, let's go where next year, Anthony Edwards is in the finals. The year after that, you had Luka last year. Luka and the Celtics. Boston hadn't been in a couple of years. Boston's been in twice in 3. Luka and the Celtics. Now you can create all these new personalities and get some of these stars that we watched play in Paris a year ago that get on that big stage. Now put them in this team setting for the NBA where you're playing for the Larry O and you're playing for the chip. Do that for the next 3 or 4 years and have just get a couple of different varieties. That's what's best for the NBA. But it's anti-David Stern, isn't it? It's absolutely anti-David Stern.
But David Stern is old hat right now. David Stern is old guard. He's the past. Move on.
I know, but he only but that's why I say
David Stern. David Stern did. David Stern, rest his soul, died in 2020, I think, or 2021. The first few days of 2021. Adam Silver's. Look, it is a new world. I remember being in Mexico last year, and what's that?
Are you ever in the States?
No, I was deported. They found me at a.
He's not allowed. Witness protection will not allow you to come back into the country. Kevin, understand?
Well, I was at a 7-Eleven. I was trying to get some work, some construction work, and this is all serious. And they ran my profile, and they didn't. I didn't come up like I'm a born American citizen, but they recognized that my social media posts and everything else was like left of Michael Moore, and they said, "Get out of here, woke boy! Get out of here, you amateur social justice minister! Get the hell out! We need white people. We need white people that think that they've got a bad rub the last 150 years. God damn it!"
Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome again to 3 old white guys just pissing and moaning. There you go. It's the new show. Well, wait on
hey,
a side...
Kev, real quick. Oh, I was going to say, Kevin, how old are you?
I'm 48. I'll be 48 in July.
So I thought you were like late 30s, early 40s. So this is my thing. It is the best thing for the NBA, but it's not the best thing for me. I mean, as I get older, I root for the old guys. I want Steph to get one more. Yeah. I want Steph. If LeBron James got one more title just to piss off everybody that says Jordan will always be the GOAT. I think it would be so fun.
Oh, Jordan will always be the GOAT. Knock that crap off.
Please, let's not go there. I don't want to go down this road because this is just such a waste.
All right, we won't. All right, go ahead, Ed.
The other thing is, I brought this
go
up
ahead,
earlier.
Ed. Steer us.
It's the players.
Yes.
This era of NBA player, younger, more European, more thoughtful of the game itself and the people and what the brand is. You don't have, and I mentioned this earlier, the knuckleheads that used to be part of the NBA.
But who are you talking about, knuckleheads? Give me some people.
The gun-carrying members of the NBA, the drug users, the assaulters,
you're talking
the physical abusers.
You're talking the aughts. You're talking like the aughts,
but
maybe
that's
Rasheed
my point.
Wallace, the Jailblazers. That was like 20 years ago.
But
they haven't had. There's Look, John Morant's a knucklehead. John Morant's a knucklehead. If they had 10 more of those guys, the NBA would be a lot less likable. And not because he's got cornrows, not because he
that's my point, Mike.
A street attitude. It's because you can't play. It's because you're an idiot when you play around with guns in this day and age. But I think the NBA is like, since Steph won the title in 2015, that whole team's like full of good dudes.
That's my point. That's my point.
So I mean, the NBA's had models. The NBA's had model citizens for a long time.
But
LeBron James, even though he pissed people off with the decision, has never had a freaking traffic ticket.
Perception lasts a long time. Perception lasts years and decades, and that's my point.
We've reached the time where the NBA is filled with likable players now. They understand their value. They understand that they don't need to get in trouble. They understand that they don't need to do stupid shit just because they're professional and they have money. They are into the game. They're more into social media. They're more into their brand. And that has helped the NBA, and that has helped the sport in itself. It's a better player. They're more into what makes, not just for a good game on the court, but good people off the court. I think that's part of it.
They're into fan engagement. They're into fan engagement, and that's something they realize. I have that. You don't have to go to an autograph signing. You just have to almost be engaging. All you need to do is post something on social media. And usually it doesn't have to do with the NBA. Or if you're watching another sport, you're watching football. Like I actually was watching Texas Tech in Oklahoma's women's softball last night. There's Patrick Mahomes, different sport, I get it. But there's Patrick Mahomes tweeting about his alma mater in Texas Tech. And that happens now. And fans get behind that shit. They love that because now you're engaged just like them. Oh, Patrick Mahomes sitting on his couch watching this sport. You're right about this, about the
they get it.
You said
they get it.
Huh?
The new player gets it.
But also,
R.I.P.
to your point. Go ahead, Mike.
No, I was going to say R.I.P. Sooner Dynasty. Tech took him out.
They did. They did take him out. They did take him out.
Like anybody's watching this going, Jesus, two of the fastest showing sports guys watch softball. What is wrong with this show?
You're right. Two of us do. 3 of us do not. Okay.
2 of us do. I had it on.
How desperate were you last night where you had to make sure that you turned on softball?
Softball's not bad.
I mean, it's not bad. I get it. Sport. But I actually, instead of doing all that, I walked over to HBO Max and I caught Friends and Neighbors. Is that HBO Max? I'm not sure. Friends and Neighbors, which is a great series starring John Hamm.
I don't do those kind of shows. I'm ready on my TVs. Hang on my TVs. One laptop, women's softball. The other laptop, squeeze play from NCAA baseball. On my big television, raw Netflix. I'm watching wrestling.
You're so desperate. We have to get you some medical help.
Hey, you know what? We need one Duck Dynasty representative on the panel. Come on.
I used to watch that too.
Moving on to something now with a level of intelligence above that of a frozen rutabaga. Because we mentioned it briefly, now that we've hit the NBA playoffs, the NHL is moving into the Stanley Cup. And here again, this is a sport that everybody complains about does not have widespread appeal. Are you kidding? This sport this year, the rematch between the Oilers and the Panthers, these are the 2 best teams in this sport, period, end of story. To see this rematch from last year, this is rife with all sorts of storylines. I mean, this is rife with excitement that's going on here, and at least the NHL has the ability to do that. And let's not forget, technically, these are 2 franchises that don't run the roost. It's not the Rangers, not the Devils, not the Blackhawks. Who else? Not the Bruins.
Hang on.
Not the Flyers.
In the NHL, though? Hang on. Hold on. Ed,
the road to the Stanley Cup goes through Florida right now. How often do you think you'd hear that?
Does the NHL running the roost, like that, what you just referenced, teams, or are you only talking about just the historical teams, or are you talking about markets?
Well, both. I mean, historical teams are set in the big markets.
Not necessarily. I mean, Edmonton wasn't.
Well, it's a big market for Canada.
It's a huge market for Canada. We don't give a flying what about it, unfortunately.
Well, but they won 4 in a row and back in the day, and Gretzky and Messier became legends, and Gretzky was I mean, hockey's in a moment right now. The NHL's in a moment because Ovechkin just unseated Gretzky. He's the all-time leading scorer. That got monster numbers. Hockey, look. I mean, look, NHL is. There's nothing like the NHL in person. I will say that. Hockey translates better in person than almost anything I've ever seen. You can see the changing on the fly. You can see all the things that you can't see from a viewing standpoint that are, but yeah, look, Yeah, Conor McGregor. Not Conor McGregor. Conor
McDavid.
Conor McDavid. Keith what? Keith
Who?
Kachuk? No.
Kachuk.
Who's the?
You got
Yeah,
Kachuk
who's
over on the Panthers. Yeah.
Yeah, Kachuk.
Kachuk.
Like Kachuk.
Yep.
Does that? Do you know any? Who's the other players on the Panthers? I don't even know.
Well, but
Sam
my point is
Reinhart,
not whether
Matthew
we know
Bennett,
them or not. The point is
Bennett.
that America needs to know them a little bit more, and certainly they're getting a chance. They're the defending Stanley Cup champions, and people still don't know who they are. I mean, what does that say about the sport in general?
Canada hasn't won a
93.
cup since when?
Who cares?
2093.
No.
The Canadians.
93, Mike. 93. 93. And
Wow.
by the way, Canadian, since Montreal won, when Montreal beat Gretzky in 93, when they had the illegal stick. And now Canadian fans will tell you will tell you it's only because of Gary Bettman, who took over in 94. I think actually the Stanley Cup final has a better storyline than the NBA final. And Ed, you talk about what's your hook. The hook for the Stanley Cup final is, can the best player on the planet, Connor McDavid, can he get his name on the Stanley Cup? Will this be his last shot? Or is this his best shot? Because last year was
how old is McDavid? He's not that old.
No, he's not old at all, Mike, but you never know. Can you get back? What if your team
you're right.
And you become Mike Trout in Anaheim? Mike Trout's at Fenway. I watched him hit a 450-foot home run last night. I'm thinking, that son of a bitch is never going to play in October. Ever.
Right.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, that is
But again,
a shame.
it comes down to this whole thing that the hockey purists will say, we need a Rangers to win. We need the Blackhawks to win. We need the Kings to win. We need this. No, you don't. It's the same thing as the NBA. You've got brilliant storylines in Florida. The Panthers are a mini dynasty. If the Panthers repeat and become Stanley Cup champion again, that's like a little mini dynasty you got working there right now. Not only that, but they've been in the finals now 3 straight years. That's awfully tough to do. And that's a Florida team.
Yeah, screw Florida and hockey. I'll be like that ESPN guy, idiot in Dallas.
No, don't mention his name. Don't mention his name. We don't want to give him any publicity. Don't mention his name.
Yeah, that's right. But I get it. I still like my storyline is simply this. Can the Edmonton Oilers bring the cup back to the Great White North in the organization that is against them, and the organization isn't just the Edmonton Oilers right now, Ed. It's all of Canada. Hoser.
I want to know,
and Canada right now doesn't like the U.S. very much, and so if this would be a patriotic thing for the Edmonton Oilers to bring that cup back to show that Cheeto Jesus looking guy in the Oval Office what the hell's going on.
First of all, that was possibly the worst Canadian imitated accent I've ever heard. Second of all, it does lead us to try and find out and ascertain why the word organization, when it comes to Canada and hockey, is pronounced organization. I've never been able to figure that out. It just doesn't fit. It doesn't fit.
Oh, get it. Oh, just have a Molson Gold in it. Come on. All right.
But I think we're,
but I do think the Canada angle's big. I do think the Connor McDavid angle's big. And I think it's going to be a great Stanley Cup playoffs. I like Edmonton. It starts tomorrow night. I like Edmonton winning in 6 games. And I think the Florida Panthers, closer to where you live, Ed, are going to bite the big one and choke like dogs.
Choke like dogs? Based on what?
Yeah.
Based on what?
Based on the fact that you like them.
No. Wait a minute.
Everything you like goes to hell.
Hang on. It's not a matter of liking them or not, okay?
He likes us.
I was there when the Panthers were born. I had season tickets for the first 5 years, and I enjoyed them. And the reason why I followed them, and not the Bruins or anybody else, was because I finally had hockey in my backyard. And I could go to a game, which was in and of itself something miraculous to see. As far as the Panthers are concerned, I don't have any real dog in this hunt, save for Brad Marchand. I've said this
was gonna
before.
say,
I want the guy to win the Stanley Cup, go back to Boston and show off his ring.
Here's the other angle for this.
I'm going to be go ahead, Kevin. I'm going to look up a stat, and you go ahead.
So you're doing what I usually do when you guys talk. The other angle for this Stanley Cup Finals, remember.
Nice to see you're paying attention too. Nice job.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Just checking. A year ago, Florida's up 3-0. 3-0. And Edmonton fights like hell to send it to Game 7. And they just ran out of gas trying to do the reverse sweep. Again, it goes back. Ken McDavid, who, by the way, if you don't remember, Connor McDavid was the Conn Smythe Trophy winner a year ago. That Conn Smythe Trophy winner is the MVP of the playoffs. And it went to a person on the losing team. I think for what? Third time ever?
I think
Something
it was third.
That's like
it was insane.
I think Jerry West was the only guy that it ever happened to in the NBA ever.
That is correct. It's only happened to Jerry, and he would never go back to Boston Garden again, by the way. So I actually think the Stanley Cup Final, if you just take storylines, and I love hoops more than anything, and I think both are going to be great, but if you actually go storylines, because this is how you market. You market with storylines.
Yep.
If you're TNT, can Canada get the cup? Where is it? Can Canada get the cup? Can McDavid get the cup? Can Florida become a mini dynasty? Those are storylines you market for this year's Stanley Cup Final. And you've probably got more of those that will resonate among sports fans than they will in the NBA.
It still comes down to how do you make people care about the National Hockey League? Look, we just talked about how people care about the NBA. How do you make them care? There's already a built-in audience that cares about the NBA because it's America. I think that there's a problem with the National Hockey League and the Stanley Cup because it is United States versus Canada. I think that's part of it. There's a lot of people in America who really don't care if Canada wins a series whatsoever. There's a lot of people in Canada who hate the fact that America might actually win a series. You have that Canada versus United States dogma that's going on.
But I get you can't go off the screen, and I can't. But I sent you a stat to your. I sent it to your text message, basically saying that all these teams in the NHL that had met. It was a Stanley Cup Final rematch. They won the next year. Yep. The Penguins.
Okay. Right.
I'm trying to think who else. So I'm basically telling you that Edmonton's going to win because this is a stat. Like Edmonton has figured Florida out. They're not going to lose this again.
Well, but again,
I was one of those. By the way, I was one of those. I didn't want to see Canada win a cup. I'm not going to lie, and I'm okay saying it. I did not want to see Canada win a cup. However, if you're pushing me because my only two options now are Canada or Florida, for the love of God, Canada.
Why?
Canada.
What have you got against Florida?
I can't stand half the fucking Panthers.
I understand that. There's a lot that people will hate because they're a very aggressive team.
True patriot love in all thy sons command. Oh, go ahead, Ed. Sorry.
No, that's okay. Kevin was taking his hat off for the Canadian national anthem. I don't know what happened all of a sudden. He must have had something in his coffee. I'm not exactly sure.
Hey, by the way, it's a great national anthem. It's a great national
anthem.
You're off on another tangent here, which we got to talk about one day, where I think national anthems should be taken out of the beginning of every sporting event. No more national anthems.
Oh boy. Can we just hashtag redneck?
Let's see. Here we go. The things that will get people angry. The Pete Rose argument, which is still there, which will always get somebody angry. The fact that Christopher Columbus did not discover America, never set foot on America. Not once did he set foot on North America, so he did not discover this country at all. And that we no longer need national anthems at the beginning of every sporting event. Those three things right there will create an argument that you will never stop. And there will be angry people throwing things at the screen.
You pissed off the mob and you pissed off...
Which one?
You pissed off the mob and you pissed off all the rednecks. Congratulations.
I'm just saying, if you want to.
Oh yeah. Yeah, every time I bring up the Native American stuff, like it's Indigenous Peoples Day. Oh my God, it's like the Gambino family comes after me. It's unbelievable.
I had that argument. I have that argument every single year on Columbus Day, where I have
Yeah.
my friends who are of Italian descent, where they attack me. They go,
Yeah.
"You just don't like Italians." I grew up with Italians. I was right there on the streets of New York City. I used to have dinner with the people whose families were mobbed up. They're my friends.
Yeah, I love the look. I've been to a couple San Gennaro festivals. I used to. My big date spot was taking a girl I liked to Little Italy, or to and literally going to some place called the Mila, the Apple, where.
And right there, it's a sabotage. There it is. Mike goes off talking about Columbus Day, and he disappears.
I know. Yeah, they got him. They got him. They found
Don't
him.
worry.
Panama, baby.
Don't worry, he'll be back. Outside of all this, we've talked about NBA and NHL. I got to tell you something, and I've noticed this, and I think you've even seen it as well. TNT is kicking ESPN's ass on the production level of everything that goes on here. When it comes to their coverage of the NBA, that's been legendary. What they've done in the National Hockey League, the only thing that ESPN has going for them in the National Hockey League is Sean McDonough. I mean, Sean's brilliant calling the game. TNT's got better announcers, better production. It looks better.
Sean was built to call hockey, believe it or
Yes,
not. As much as
without
we
question.
think he was built to call football and basketball and baseball, and hell, up here in Boston, if you're watching in the Boston area, if you're my age, you knew him on Channel 38 doing Red Sox. I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to go kicking ass when it comes to basketball, in part because I know a lot of those people and they're my friends.
Well,
so
no, I get that. I'm not looking to make this personal. I mean, it's all this is a matter of production. In production and in game calling, TNT has done an amazing job doing it for the NBA. And their hockey coverage, I think, has been stellar in how they've produced everything, and they've not overproduced it. That's part of it.
That's fine. I'll let you say that. I'm in a disagreement with that. I will say this. It was, and I'm glad Mike's back for this part, because I made sure the other night when TNT signed off, and Mike, we're talking production value of ABC and ESPN versus TNT and either sport. And by the way, I'm out of that conversation. I'm going to let you guys talk if you want.
You used to work for ESPN, and you've got a lot of friends at ESPN. I get that, and I'm not looking to cast aspersions.
Nope. I get it. I'll say this. When the Eastern Conference Finals ended the other night, I actually wanted to make sure I was in my couch watching how TNT and Shaq and Charles and Kenny and Ernie Johnson would sign off. I made sure to watch as Kevin Harlan and Reggie Miller and Stan Van Gundy were going through the entire litany of broadcasters from Bob Neal back in the day, all the way through. I made sure to watch that because I remember as a kid saying, hey, what the hell is this channel? As I'm flipping through the channels like an idiot when I first found cable, my dad was pissing my dad off at the remote, and I came across a game because I'd always flip a channel to find a game. And there's a basketball game. It may be in Chicago. I don't care. I'm going to watch. I'm watching Michael Jordan. Holy shit. Yeah. That's what TBS and Turner did for me.
But it was it was also Turner, TBS, and then later TNT that did it. Yeah, brilliant production, simple production, fun production. That's what I'm saying. You could have fun at those games watching them.
Ready? Hang on. Here's what they did. They just called the game. They just called the game. The game was the show. Yeah. There was nothing else. There was nothing contrived. So I made sure to watch the other night, and I kind of felt what EJ was saying. And Shaq was awesome. He said, and this is where I'm glad I don't work for ESPN anymore because I'd be on their side. He says, we're not coming to fuck around, ESPN. We're coming to take over. Shaq literally dropped F-bombs on the end of the show. It was awesome.
I love that.
Right?
Yeah, so, look, having worked for ESPN too. Go ahead, Kevin. I cut you off.
I'm done. I'm on my rant. It's over. You're over. Go ahead.
I think, an era has passed It was an amazing, amazing time. I go back to, I don't know, 10 years ago. It was about 10 years ago. Maybe it was a little longer, 2012. Fox Sports 1 was starting up.
Yes, FS1.
And I had this agent, and every agent I've had has been brutal. But I've yet to look myself in the mirror and figure out that it was my fault. But I guess what I'm getting at is this guy was Jim Ornstein. But he was also like Andy Roddick's agent. One day he came to meet me in New York. I came up to meet him instead of him coming to DC. And he's like really late. And he goes, I had to meet with Whoopi Goldberg today. And I'm like, Jesus, why am I even a client? But one thing he did for me was he got me a radio deal in DC. And he also, he got me out to FS1 for some tryouts on this show. And I can't remember, like, I was in the final thing and they took me out to dinner, and then they didn't give me an offer. But during the final dinner, when it had all these guys, Gary Payton, Donovan McNabb, Andy Roddick, all these athletes were there that were going to sort of, he goes, look, no offense to you writers. And I think Pete Traeger was one of them, and a couple other guys that I knew. No offense to you writers, but the athletes carry the day now. And, that's what, the guy's name was Scotty Ackerman, who I'll give him his credit. He pioneered the whole scene of Terry Bradshaw and Howie Long and Jimmy Johnson coming in on horseback, and that, became the NFL today. This guy was out of his element at that point. He was old fangled. And what he didn't realize, and what none of us realized, and I could have told him then if I had the balls, was this isn't about an athlete. This isn't about getting someone who can speak to, playing the game on there. It's about people who are likable on television. And it's about getting a group together that's likable. And that's why FS1 and their panels fell apart, because Gary Payton wasn't likable on TV. Donovan McNabb wasn't like Kenny Smith, Charles Barkley, and Shaquille O'Neal, are likable people. Ernie Johnson he's the Roy Rogers of his day. He's one of the nicest people. I don't think anybody's ever met a guy like Ernie Johnson and said that they didn't like him.
Well, you're also talking about the era of Craig Sager. Everybody loved Craig. Craig got along with everybody.
Yeah, everybody.
Because
remember
Craig
the guy who
Craig
used
really
to
didn't have an ego. He came up, he wore crazy suits and jackets on the air, but he was just having a good time. See, that's the difference. When I'm watching TNT, I feel like I'm having a good time with guys and gals and people who are just there to enjoy the sport, enjoy the game. When I watch anything on Fox or ESPN, I feel like I'm being hit over the head with contrived controversy and some of the arrogance that's involved, and it's me doing all this and me saying this and the fights that go on back and forth. I don't know. It's like when I watch the intermission of the NHL games done on TNT with Bissonnette and that whole crew, I'm just having fun. I mean, when they're doing it, I don't feel like I'm being beat over the head.
It's a different world. And I think you're right. It's almost like ESPN's panel shows, and I've been on those panel shows, but ESPN's panel shows, they're almost like, okay, these are audience tested. These are the takes we're going to have. Like, no, just go with your gut and have the people that are actually giving the takes tell you what they're thinking. And if they argue, they argue. If they don't, you get levity. Oh my God, God forbid there's levity in freaking sports anymore. God forbid somebody's cracking up in the studio over something so ridiculous.
What I get every time from watching ESPN, I get this self-importance. We're ESPN. We're the worldwide leaders in sports. We are the best there is at what we do. You have to listen to us. Nobody knows better than us. That's not the case.
Well, they are in some ways, but
not in every way. It's that arrogance factor. It's a complete arrogance.
Right.
I don't get that when I watch TNT, and I didn't get it even though I'm not a basketball fan. When I would watch the NBA on TNT and I would watch their shows, it was fun. It was entertaining.
Right. Yeah.
It was just, guys sitting there talking. ESPN, it's like, we're going to beat you over the head that we're the worldwide leader in sports. I don't care. All I want is to be entertained.
I'll give you a little insight real quick. You know, I wrote Shaquille O'Neal's book some 25 years. We had, I mean, if I have a friend that was an athlete, I would say he's it. Now there's no equity in that friendship. He never calls me on my birthday, but it's like I can call him this day and age and get him on the phone, and probably a week he'll call me back.
Okay, well, you can get him on the show next week. There you go. There's your job. Go for it.
Right. Yeah.
Hey, if he would do it, if you know, these guys all sign these deals now where they're excluded. But yeah, if we could get him on here, I would do it in a heartbeat. But so, you know, and Charles is somebody that, like, oh my God, I've known Charles forever. Charles is one of the best people in the world. Like, he came one day, I was like literally headlocked at the NBA Finals. And he goes, "What are you?" And it was Barkley behind me, and none of the people could believe it that I worked with at ESPN, because they're like, "I didn't know you guys were that tight." And Barkley was the one who told me, basically, like, I was trying to have some hair on the top of my head in my late 30s, and he was going, "What are you doing?" Like, going, you know, and he goes, Mike, look at me. He said, "Take it back to God. Take it back to God when you were a baby. Just take it all off." And like, I literally started going bald at that point. I was like, but anyway, I knew these guys, and I knew Jet a little bit, but I knew those two. So when Shaq really got angry at Barkley one time, early on in Shaq's tenure in the show, when I thought there was going to be a real fight, I sent Shaq a text and I said, "Were you really angry? Were you really angry at Charles there?" And he goes, and he's like, "That motherfucker, I'm going to slap him off this." Like, it was serious. And then I sent something to Chuck and I said, "Look, Shaquille's a big kid sometimes. He's the most biggest kids, insecure person of that size I've ever met. Like, you know," and he goes, "Man, he's got to chill out, man." I felt like I was a liaison between the two, but you know, but the bottom line is they figured it out. And they were just real people. They were good people. And that's what people want to see on the air. They don't want to see phonies.
I also have to speak from, you know, a slight personal side of things, because I know a lot of the people who are involved at TNT and Turner Sports. I've worked with them over the years, and I've worked with a lot of people who worked at ESPN. And again, Kevin, I'll leave you out of this if you want. It's okay, but this is just the personal experience. Every time I worked on an ESPN production, there was an angst that was there about, this is ESPN. Don't screw up. Don't get it wrong. Follow the party line. Don't have any fun. When I worked with the people at Turner Sports and those, it was, let's do this right. Come on, guys. Let's have a good time doing this. Let's just spit it out. Things happen. Stuff goes on. And don't worry about it if something screws up. We'll get past it. There's a real dichotomy there between the two. So I'm sad to see TNT go from NBA, because I now know we're going to get hit over the head with everything that's not fun. At least that's the way it sounds anymore. But that's why I like what goes on in the intermission for TNT at the Stanley Cup Final. I think those guys are great. They do an outstanding job, and they make me just relax and enjoy it. Hey, even Lady Shannon likes it, and she's not that big into all the intermission stuff, but she's a big hockey fan. Even she likes it.
I think we're going to be fine next year, because you've got NBC and Amazon Prime, and a lot of the TNT folk are going to those outlets.
Well, that's the only saving grace, is because Amazon Prime and some of the others have already proven that they can't produce their way out of a paper bag.
That's fair. What you are going to get, and this is going to be where I'm going to watch, Shaq, Kenny, EJ, and Chuck. That show inside the NBA is going to be done out of Atlanta, where they are now, but it will air on ESPN. And ESPN will be their bosses. ESPN will be their bosses. That's the one to watch. Do they let Mike, those guys, those four, particularly those three, do they let those three be themselves? Do they shoehorn Stephen A in there?
Oh, for Christ's sake.
Yeah, that's the big concern. Is like, where are they going to use this
as
a cross promotion?
The chemistry they've got is perfect.
Is this going to be a cross promotion vehicle and all that? Stephen A, that might be the best thing for his career, is just to go on there and be a regular guy and get laughed at and shot down and he doesn't have
Agreed.
to do the according to my sources, pesto and marinara. Allen Iverson is being disrespected again.
Yeah, but you're not allowed to shoot
Like,
Stephen A. down. You're not allowed to do that. He's their
right.
he's their face right now.
But you're
if you
right.
take a shot
You're
at him,
right.
they're going to bounce you as quick as they can.
What is that show going to be like? I would argue that this. They let that trailer park piece of trash McAfee be who he wants. So maybe, but that's his own production company. So maybe I don't know.
Right.
Either way, you're right. I think it's going to be more bells and whistles that are going to be attractive to some viewers and like repulsive to us. But it's all about the content. If the content is good, you'll watch it. If not, I think those guys, they'll take the paycheck, but at some time they'll get bored and they'll go, let's get the hell out of here.
Well, you brought up a good point, too, because it really seems as if, and I could be overgeneralizing this, but a lot of times when it comes down to production, ESPN is bells and whistles. It's all the latest. Here's what we have. Let's get the graphics in there. Let's get the swoosh in there. Let's do everything we can. When you watch TNT, whether it's basketball or hockey, it's not a lot of that crap that goes with it. It's guys sitting at the table, talking, being honest, spitting out things that they like, that they don't like, and that has a real gather to it. I think people are sick and tired of the bullshit graphics. Just give me what you guys think. Have some fun and make me feel like I'm part of the gang.
Ed, you know this.
I miss. Go ahead, Kevin. Sorry.
Well, Ed, especially because this is where I met you doing television. You've come across TV producers and execs who say, we need to hammer. Coming up next, here's this. There are TV execs who love the buzzwords, the catchwords, where if I'm in my fucking kitchen or I'm sitting at the couch scrolling on my phone or having a beer and you say that buzzword, I immediately go, who? Like a dog. I look right up. Who? What do we got? And then TV execs love those. And ESPN is loaded with those kind of executives.
Well, the ratings people love them because that's what it is. It's all push things ahead. Make sure that you keep retention. I mean, that started back in the 80s.
I was once told, I don't care what you say, a good show is if we got out on time and throw it to the site on time for the start of a basketball game. And I went, excuse me? An hour pregame show. Someone once said, just as long as, so the tip is at 02, at 8:02, as long as it's 7:58, I've done the legal ID on radio, and I'm tossing it at 7:58. As long as we hit it at 58, that's a good show. I could have made fucking fart noises for 1 hour. As long as I tossed at 58, it was a good show.
Exactly.
Well, the promo, the way they do promos on TNT is some of it's funny. I mean, they have them do like literally they'll like if they let that go, that's funny. Like if it's a serious promo for the next show, get up in the morning, screw that. I don't.
We have seen enough time right now where the general public enjoys the self-effacing humor. Have some fun with it. Don't be an arrogant son of a bitch. You're just a guy or a gal just like us. Have some fun with it. But with ESPN, everything is self-grandiorized, where we're the most important thing in the world. TNT was a bunch of guys who had fun.
Yeah, well. But you know what? But you know what? The ESPN is. I mean, that's NBC. That's CNN. That's like it's endemic. I mean, if you want to know the biggest parasites in this world, take out the network executives because they're that's the part of their job. The biggest parasites in the world are these producers that call you up and treat you like you're the most wonderful person in the world, and then they just forget about you the next day, or they get a bigger guest and they forget. Like they're just parasitical. They're not good people. They just, and I've really met some nice producers in my life. They're just about the most fraudulent. They're like they basically sell you a house with a toilet that fell through the bottom of the house as long as they got their commission. So. If they put those producers on that show, they're in trouble.
If you want an example of that, go to HBO Max and watch the show Hacks, which is about the entertainment industry and is just absolutely brilliant. That's more factual than anything you could possibly get. I won't tell Kevin to watch it because he doesn't watch anything that doesn't have sports in it, and I can't figure that out.
Wait a minute. He does watch something that without sports. It's called Raw. What the hell?
He's the only guy left who's still doing wrestling.
The funny thing is what?
Sopranos, Sons of Anarchy, Sopranos, Mayans, Yellowstone, and Raw. Those are probably the last, and SmackDown, wrestling. Those are probably the 5 series I watch outside of sports. Other than that, I don't watch any fucking television.
There's so much
how
more
good
out
was
there.
how good was Easy in the Mayans? I love that character.
I love that character.
I have not watched one episode of the Mayans. Not one.
No.
Well, it's about a street biker gang, Ed, with tattoos. You could relate.
Dude, I was a biker before you even thought about it, man. I was riding bikes when I was 8 years old. I was riding bikes when I was 15 and 16. I had the bikes. I was the guy on the motorcycle. I was the guy who stood on the seat of his motorcycle, a 100cc yellow Kawasaki, going northbound on US 1 Federal Highway, standing on the seat at 45, 50 miles an hour.
Yeah, boy.
That's awesome.
Well done.
That was my moment then. And none of you can say you were ever there.
All right. Thank you, Evel Knievel. All right.
Thank you. I was. All right. We're out of here, by the way, and we'll go ahead and we'll talk more when we get together. By the way, do we want to get together later on this week? I'm out on Friday. Do you guys let me know if you want to do something on Thursday.
Okay.
We'll
I'll
figure it out from there.
If I'm available, I like the company.
I know you do. I know you do. We're not in Panama.
Thursday at 11 if we're available. Okay.
You get a little chance back in America. He's Kevin Winter. He's Mike Wise. I'm Ed Berliner. This is the fastest show in sports. Don't forget, Mike. Mike's already. Well, he's giving us the look at Panama. Yeah. Don't forget YouTube channel. Don't forget podcast. Don't forget the audio side of things. Do it all. Listen to us and tell about 6 million of your favorite friends. And don't forget, if you know them, tell the people at Polar, I'm still out here pushing every single day. Kevin, you got to walk down the street to the Polar offices in Worcester, Mass.
I got to call my sister. I got to text my sister.
Hey, Kev, real quick, Kev, did you hear that we got a sponsor? Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. No, we got monster trucks. This Saturday, Dinky Danny Sullivan's 460 Cherry Dodge Chevy Love goes up against Daddy Don Garlits and the Snake. We'll turn the Hagerstown Fairgrounds into a mud pit. All right, sorry.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, have yourself a great time. For Kevin, for Mike, I'm Ed Berliner. Rock on, true believers. Thanks for joining us on the fastest show in sports. See ya.
That's all, folks.